I've got the perfect thing to prompt this conversation. We've just put out positions. I'm going to put this in some chat. I guess I'm trying to link you something. Oh yeah, I'll put it in the realm of AY chat here.
Sure.
So this is our positions page. We've just put these out, and I expect that they might well evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Now our idea here, usually what we're putting out is insights. So there's another page here, insights, and this is formatted as like this is the latest piece of research that we've published, right? It's like just like chronological order. But the idea with the positions, now this is like the new page as of today or yesterday. This went up. These are our, what we think are the correct positions. Now they're not necessarily permanent in that they couldn't change, but they're like a guiding set of, not
Yeah.
just like the latest, right? You get what I'm saying. So these
No, it's
are,
good to. Sorry.
yeah, I was going to say these are at the moment 9 things that are, our positions, and then this is what I think is like the right thing to do with respect to reducing animal suffering, I guess broadly. But yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to try to think through a clear position and put it out there and then adjust it as feedback comes in and you notice ways to improve it. That's
Exactly.
better than just keeping it in your head where it never really gets improved, or just I guess just putting out random bullshit and switching with whatever people say. You got that middle ground is good, where you like put out a well thought through thing and change it only as it seems to be required.
Yeah.
Unifocal, we focus exclusively on issues relating to animals as food. In many cases, this overlaps with environmental and social justice more broadly, but where trade-offs exist, we are unambiguously focused on reducing farmed animal suffering. Do not spend time or resources or take positions on issues which are not related to farmed animals. This keeps us focused on our mission and avoids us getting sidetracked on unrelated issues or getting divided by other disagreements. While we welcome the opportunity to learn from and share our knowledge with people from other movements, our focus and resource will continue to be on farmed animal issues exclusively. Broad 10. We welcome allies from all walks of life and across the political spectrum. As a result of being unifocal on farmed animals, we do not exclude any potential allies on the basis of their other beliefs, backgrounds, or affiliations. Welcome. We're proud to have worked with the Left of Center Social Market Foundation as well as the Right of Center Conservative Animal Welfare Foundation and NGOs like the Vegan Society, as well as investor coalitions like FAIR. On a personal level, our clients are sometimes vegetarian or vegan, but are often meat eaters. We don't ask or discuss this with our external partners uninvited. Pro-donor, we deeply value and appreciate individuals who choose to give their resources to the animal movement and or invest in alternative proteins. Donor skepticism among activists is often fueled by a misguided belief that philanthropists give to charity for cynical or self-interested tax reasons rather than genuine altruism. This is incorrect. Donations to charity will never save a philanthropist more in tax than they cost in donations. Investors in alternative proteins are not unreasonable to expect a return on their investment. Moreover, many high-profile investors funds are ethically motivated so-called impact investors. They are willing to accept more risk and or lower return because they are aligned with the company's mission. The animal movement should avoid the own goal of adopting and encouraging attitudes or practices which alienate would-be donors or investors, such as critiquing Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates on posts about them investing in alternative proteins. This type of attitude could become extremely damaging to the movement. Animal-centric.
Perhaps we can pause there just because it's quite long if you just read the whole thing. But do you have anything to say on those first 3? I mean, perhaps the second one I need to perhaps almost any potential allies.
No, I like these so far.
Broadly, I think we're barking
think
up the right tree.
Yeah, there's things you could say about Jeff Bezos that I would think would be fine. So criticizing isn't maybe the word I'd use, but like something stronger. I understand the point and agree with it. Like it's not healthy to have a movement that like repels. It is an own goal. It's like repelling people who are coming in with money to help. So yeah, unifocal, I totally understand that, and it can make sense to do that. Broad tent, yeah. I mean, obviously there's a point, but
right.
Yeah. Pro-donor, animal-centric, welfarist. I'll just read the first sentences. We support and applaud incremental improvements in animal welfare standards and or labeling. Yeah, I
That's a
feel
contentious one
always
for
a
some
little.
vegans.
Well, I'm a bit mixed about it because from my point of view, it's an improvement. Like it's
Mhm.
better to keep a slave in a bigger cage or to give them like a padded cell or something like that. But I think it's important to make it clear that you don't view that as the final condition. I kind of think of it like
Yeah.
I guess there's two things for me. Like it's a bit hard to see the motivation for welfare stuff because that money seems like it could be, or resources just seems like it could be better put towards working on the primary issue, um, which is that it's happening at all. And I don't like I don't like something about not giving a clear message about what the end goal needs to be. But that said, I'm not one of these kind of crazy people who will like say that a welfare reform is a bad thing.
Mm.
I know that there's some people who will make the speculative argument that it makes people more okay with animal suffering.
Hmm.
And that's a kind of, again, it's like a mech specky kind of, I don't know. I'd have
Yeah,
to
it's an
see what the
empirical
data is
question.
on that. Yeah. But I mean, overall, my sense is like, yeah, in the same way that if you gave a bunch of like human slaves pillows or something or bigger cages, I wouldn't be like, oh, like that's like a bad thing. Like obviously you made things better, but there's just something that like it can't be in a framework where we're actually acting like we're achieving anything particularly meaningful by that. And I'm skeptical about it being a good thing to really put money into. So I don't know. I have
Interesting.
a kind of middle take on that. I don't know how much we disagree about welfare.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I think there's a component of it that I want to highlight that is in here, but obviously I appreciate you've only read the first sentence of this bit. Um, you might well already know what I'm about to say, but I think that a lot of vegans do miss it, which is one thing that you're doing. Oh, here we go. One function of welfare standards and labels is to increase the cost of rearing animals overall. Therefore, such schemes not only
Yeah, that's
benefit
a
the
good
animals
point.
which have higher standards, they also cause fewer animals to be farmed overall. Right. It's like if
Yeah.
all prisoners now have to have 20 pillows, well, now it's quite expensive to keep people in prison, so maybe we're going to do it less, right?
Yeah, raising the cost of farming is obviously good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, I because I'm not fighting the notion that a welfare reform happening is good. There's like even the Francione case, you have to think that you're going to get into this like configuration where everyone has become totally unincentivized to fix this problem. And now, given enough years, eventually the trajectory where we had have just advocated veganism directly leads in a bigger time frame to more well-being. That kind of stuff is like it's super speculative, so I don't feel strongly about anything like that. I just acknowledge that's a possibility, I guess. But in terms of like what I think when I actually see a welfare reform, like I acknowledge the possibility that the people who think it's counterproductive could be right. But again, I don't really have reason to think that. I mostly just think, okay, things are a bit better. But I wouldn't want to see people out there talking about how great what we've done is by, I don't know. There's something about it that the messaging really has to be right or else it makes me kind of cringe. Like we don't want to ever give this message that we think that we're getting anywhere near an acceptable state like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah. No,
Um
I totally hear what you're saying, and that is the. I totally get that squeamishness as well about getting on board with it. That is the fundamental reason why a lot of vegans are going to be at least not pro welfarist. I hear you saying that you wouldn't be opposed to such measures, but you're not that enthusiastic about them, or you don't, you're very wary that that would be considered the end state.
I have some apprehensions, but I'm overall kind of like close to neutral, but acknowledge that the probably gone in a good direction. Like
Yeah,
I just
close to neutral.
It's
That's
hard. Like, what
interesting.
are we talking about? Like, I hear that like this farm has now like taken away the like some electric shocking technology or something like that.
Hmm.
It'd probably be like, okay, there's, yeah, I guess that I find myself just listing the pros and cons and not and feeling like a slight leaning to good, but like not even much really. Like,
Interesting.
I don't know.
Um,
You,
and
yeah.
we're,
So
we're
I don't feel very strongly about welfare.
fair enough. Okay, so there's a couple of things I could say on this. One, I think fundamentally for me, the way that I would be thinking about it, or the way that I do think about it, and well, no, I'll bracket that other thing for now. The way that I do think about it, let's say that you are starting in Canada and you say, I want to go to Mexico, and I say, well, I want to go to Texas, let's get on the same bus together. The fact that you want to you want to end up further than I do, we can still get on the bus together now, right?
Well, what does that mean exactly? Does that mean just acknowledging that a positive thing has happened?
Well, let's say that if you don't agree to get on this bus with me, there's not enough of us to pay the bus driver, and we're not
What
getting
is
anywhere.
getting on the bus with you?
Well, a sufficient
What
number of vegans getting behind things like the better chicken commitment or like
what's it mean to get behind it though?
Well, it means to engage in the activism to try and pressure companies to adopt these policies and stuff like that, right?
I don't think I would ever engage in like welfarist activism. So if that's what you mean by getting behind, I don't think that I would ever do that.
Interesting. And is that because you are
Well,
just...
it's like the same reason I wouldn't do like vegetarian activism. It's not the position that I actually
Hmm,
hold. I'd rather just I don't really even do activism generally. Like I kind
fair
of
enough,
talk
yeah.
to other vegans. I make like philosophy kind of content. But I guess I'm just like, if I were gonna do activism, I'd want to do the most like high likelihood, high impact thing. I'd probably do something like go into like lab meat promotion or something like that. Like
Hmm.
what trying to pass welfare reforms in these hellholes is just like, like good luck to people doing that. And if they can make any reasonable progress, I'm totally open to seeing it. But I'm skeptical of how well it works empirically. I'm just not sure.
Oh, dude,
And
so I'm a bit of an effective altruism nerd, and that is one of the main things that effective animal advocates consider to be impactful, right? The better chicken commitment, get institutional commitments to higher welfare chicken supply chain. Like that's the most bang for your buck in terms of if you're looking to donate to effective vegan charities. It's all that kind of stuff, and a lot of it is leveraging just like people emailing decision makers, posting on social media and stuff like that.
I'm not sure. How do you compare? Have you seen some comparison that includes like funding marketing and production of alternative protein?
Yeah. By the way, I should say as well, I'm big on alternative proteins. My PhD thesis was on consumer perceptions of what's now called cultivated meat. So that's really cool.
Interesting.
I'm big on that. Yeah. So I'm totally with you on that as well. And I hear you as well being like, where's the marginal, next best place to spend $1 to get impact or spend your attention or whatever it may be, which is a good way of thinking
Yeah.
about it. Have you seen there's a couple of empirical reports that estimate something silly like up to 120 years of chicken life affected per dollar invested in welfare campaigns, and that is based on the reforms which were welfare reforms which have been passed in Europe, having been passed like X number of years earlier than they might have done. I mean, there's there's a lot of like speculation in there, but there is what's the other thing I've seen a high increase in the proportion of cage-free eggs, which comes follows on from such campaigns, on which X amount is spent, and you can reasonably infer that that's affected a wide number of chickens and so on. So it is very Yeah, I understand it's not aligned with the end state that you would want to endorse, but I think that it is, in terms of empirically, marginally kind of impactful. I think it does tick the boxes.
Yeah, I've not seen that data, so I would have to see that. What is it? 100 something years of chicken life saved, like through like lifespan expansion? Expansion?
It's here we are. I'll put it in the chat here, and yeah, appreciating you're not going to react to some heavy empirical thing live. Oh, look at that! The table that it comes up with on the thumbnail is the relevant one.
Yeah, what does it mean to affect their life? Like, I'm trying to.
Yeah, so the reason why they don't say saved is because it's basically they're not saying that there's fewer chickens being slaughtered even necessarily, but they are now in better conditions, right? So it's like number of years of life affected.
Yeah, but what's the effect though? What's the thing that we're doing to them for this number of years?
Oh, I see what you mean. Well, it's cage free. It's cage free. So they were in cages and now they're in, big sheds, big warehouses and not in cages, I guess.
So for every dollar on chicken welfare, just taking it at face value, for every dollar on chicken welfare, you get 9 years where you're, well, I don't know exactly what cage free is, that just being in some like shitty little pen, but you're at least in some like shitty little pen or
Yes.
something instead of in a cage. Is that a good use of a dollar? I mean, it sounds better than using it on something like there's better there's worse things I can think of using a dollar on.
Pretty
Am
much
I
everything I
doing?
can think
I
of
don't.
alternative use of a dollar. I can't think of a better use of a dollar.
I'm skeptical of stuff like this versus lab meat, and I'm kind of not sure. I mean, I just don't know. I haven't looked at these empirics, so all I could do is speculate. So I don't really have much of an opinion on any of this. But yeah, I guess if agreeing with means like spending money on or something, I think I would want to do research, and I kind of speculate that it wouldn't be the place that I would spend my money, but I could be wrong. It could be that I look into this, I look into other things, and end up going, oh, this is just like super effective for suffering reduction. But I guess I'm not currently convinced empirically, which isn't to say there's not a case. I've just not looked. And then in addition to that, it's just not something that I would want to ever do with my time. I mean, I don't again, I don't really do activism. Like it's not really something I would want to spend any time thinking about or doing. I'd rather focus on like philosophy and stuff like that.
That's fair enough. I mean, there's
So it
definitely
depends what you mean by what was the word you use? Support or
yeah, something
assist or
like
something
that.
like
Yeah.
that. So it depends what you mean. If what you mean is just say, I'm not convinced that this is negative. I see. I even have worries about that because I do worry about if it normalizes things. I just really am not sure. I have not looked at the data, so I can't really say much about it. But what I can say is that if you're asking if I would spend my time or money on it, the answer is definitely not until I've been like really persuaded empirically. And even then, there's things I would much rather be doing than doing like activism, let alone welfarist activism.
Interesting. Okay, so there's a couple of empirical pieces. One is this thing about whether it's the best use of a marginal dollar versus like investing in cultivated meat or something like that, which I agree is probably also is going to be up there as well, right? I'd look at animal charity evaluators for these things, and they recommend a lot of the charities doing the kind of thing that I'm talking about, the corporate cage-free campaigns. And they also recommend a lot of the charities doing the kind of thing that you're talking about, right? Alternative Proteins, the Good Food Institute is the main one there. So I think we're both there or thereabouts in terms of what is empirically supported as the best bang for your buck in terms of donating to animal charities. With these are two things which contend. So that's one thing, and then the other thing is the point about is there some kind of backlash. I've actually written about this, and I'm scrolling through trying to find it. Oh, here we go. So I wrote this for the Vegan Society many years ago. or well, about 5 years ago. Some animal rights campaigners may be concerned about bringing attention to particularly cruel farming practices in the media, since this could give the message that animal exploitation would be permissible under better conditions. This is the kind of concern that we're talking about here. However, there is good evidence that media coverage of corporate or legislative welfare reforms decreases consumption of animal products. Lusk 2010 found that coverage of Proposition 2 in California, which banned cages for egg-laying hens, decreased demands for caged well, that's interesting. Decreased demand for caged eggs and increased demands for cage-free eggs. So it's not clear about overall demand for eggs there, but okay. Reading media coverage about this made people switch towards cage-free eggs, even in the states where they weren't outlawed. So that's interesting. Whilst the overall demand did not change in this case, Sonsor and Ilnick found that media coverage about chicken and pig welfare decreased demand for pork and poultry over 10 years.
Sorry, I might be missing the high-level point. What's the thing you're trying to convey with this, though?
Oh, sorry. So this is it's an empirical point as to what, in fact, is the impact on public opinion of, I suppose, interacting with media about these kind of reforms.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that would be a whole research project. Like, to really actually form an opinion about that, I would have to, like, that would be a whole thing. So I don't think I'm likely to shift my opinion in any way immediately, at least. There's a lot of things that I don't have strong views on because they don't interest me much, so I don't explore them. And some people really want me to form views on them, and I'm just kind of like, sorry. Might not be your guy. Don't know if I care enough about the topic.
Fair enough, yeah, okay. I appreciate...
You might like some of the other... Sorry?
Yeah, that's it. That's fair enough, and I appreciate that as a public figure of sorts. You could, you must find yourself always trying to get drawn on one thing or another, and you're like, I'm going to resist commenting on this. It's fair enough.
Well, yeah, because the thing is, like, I mean, I'm happy to say how I feel about welfare stuff, which is just that I broadly I have a lot of hesitance about it. There's things that don't sit well with me about it, but also that I'm open to what the empirical research actually says, and I'm not gonna sit there and say that something is bad if it can be like tangibly shown to just increase well-being or something like that. So it's kind of like a pretty tentative position that to really firm up, I'd have to go do research, but I'm never going to do that because I don't really care about the topic at all. Which everyone's like that with respect to a million topics, but
yes, that's very true. Yeah. That's fair. And no, okay. I'm like, can I try and motivate you to care about this? So there's a few empirical points about like, is it actually high impact compared to other forms of activism that you might do? I think that it is, and again, I don't expect. I'm not going to try and get you to agree with that point. Again, you'd need to kind of like spend more time looking at the evidence and so on. And then there's another point about even if it is high impact. Well, I guess it's sort of a subset point about is there some kind of backlash effect? And again, I think that the evidence suggests there's not. But again, I don't expect you to kind of form an opinion on that on the fly.
Yeah. To me, that's just like a undermining consideration. It's something that gives me, as a person who's not looked at the data, pause. But I would be not at, like, again, it wouldn't surprise me if we look at the data and it's like, no, people's opinions just seem to move more or less in one way. They actually become more open to animal rights concerns if they start supporting welfare stuff. So it could literally go in the opposite direction and not surprise me at all. I don't have a strong leaning about it, but it's just a concern in my head that is among the many that I'd need to address if I ever actually explored this.
Fair enough, yeah.
Do you want me to read your other pillars, though?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's go on to that, yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I was about to say I don't want to keep you on.
No, normally I do these things for an hour, but I don't mind going a little over if I'm
I appreciate it, dude, yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Incrementalist. So I think the welfarist one I'm here there on, but the others I agree with or understand all of them. Like, I mean, some of them it's not that I agree to the exclusion of other things. Like, you could also be a multifocal organization. That's just something I don't really. It's just a matter of what you're trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't really agree or disagree with that. I just understand it as a choice. But yeah, I mean, pro donor that's a big one. I totally agree with that. I guess I'm in a position to personally know how brutal people's attitudes on that one are.
Oh, interesting.
Broad tent. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I could talk about donations stuff for a while, but there's a lot of there's people who think activists shouldn't have money, and it's
Yeah.
like the most stupid, undermining belief ever. And I've seen it affect other activists and it frustrate them.
I
And
mean, could a
obviously, you can
non-saboteur
also
hold
do.
that belief?
Sorry.
Could a non-saboteur hold that belief?
I think so. Yes, I do. But I do think this would be a thing that would be not surprising for a saboteur to believe.
It's getting close, isn't it?
Um, Animal centric. I also like that, and I do kind of like unifocal in a way if it's paired with animal centric, because I'm just tired of things that sideline the animals when they're like the primary ethical concern we should have right now, probably aside from AI.
Mm.
6, incrementalist. We encourage and celebrate the efforts of people who are meat reducers, flexitarians, and imperfect meat reducing diets. Yeah, so I mean, again, like I really can't get on board with you there. I'm happy to acknowledge that those people are being a little bit less horrible. Like
Hmm.
that's okay, but I'm never in my life gonna say that I'm like on board with that or something. Like, I'm as on board as I am with less. Like, yes, you've made the world good by less, and you should also eliminate all the rest of them if you don't want to be a complete piece of human garbage. So I might not align with the sentiment behind that very much.
Well, that's
And pro
interesting because
alternative
I
proteins.
agree with that word for word, and then it's like it just depends which half of the sentence you emphasize more, I suppose, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I think the thing that you might be wanting to say with that, or the thing behind it, is just like it's like the EA kind of attitude. Like, look, all of this pushed us in the right direction. It would be weird to even expect everyone to go vegan. In reality, that's not how things will happen. It'll be like a bell curve or something. There'll be like
Hmm.
some people who go all the way there, some people who get half the way there. And I don't want to discourage all the partial progress. So I understand that motivation, if that's at all your motivation. Is
Yeah,
that at all your motivation? Or are you coming from
absolutely.
somewhere
Yeah,
else?
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah, I'm not saying
Yeah,
that
so
these
that's
are
not.
like acceptable places to end up at. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that motivation I totally understand, but it's kind of for me it's about like there's like look, the way I just said it right now is not how I would say it if I were in a different role. Like I'm just an individual who can say exactly what I think about these
Yeah.
people. But if I were trying to outreach them or something, I might not speak in that kind of
You
way. If
might
I'm
not
trying to
say
run an
that. Yeah.
organized uh, yeah. So I can understand the like I just think you have to get it's hard, but you have to get the phrasing right where you simultaneously make it utterly clear that it's not morally acceptable, but at the same time you acknowledge that it's good. It's it's there's no real way to say it without like you have to
Yeah.
there is a way to say it. I'm not That's not actually true. You want to acknowledge that it's better than the prior state things were in without also making them feel like you did absolutely nothing and you're just a total piece or what you just did is like worthless or something like that. You want to acknowledge that the step is being made in the right direction and support to whatever degree you can further movement in that direction without giving the impression that the movement that was made actually gets this person to a point of
Yeah.
being morally decent. So it's hard to get that phrasing right, but if you have an organization, you have time to think about it. There is a way to simultaneously communicate support for movement in the right direction and condemn insufficient movement without throwing those same people under the bus in a way that's really distasteful.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. It's very similar to the welfarist point in a lot of ways, I feel.
Oh yeah, well that's a part of the welfare thing that I feel very clear about, which is the communication side. Like you just it's fine to acknowledge that the world has been made better for the reform. Again, throwing aside any things like the Francione kind of backfire concerns, where it's fine to acknowledge the reform made things better, but you also can't do that in a way that you're so celebratory of the reform that you give the impression that we're anywhere near an acceptable state. Like the reform was like turning down the oven of hell like a few degrees or something, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing where like anything that talks about partial movement towards veganism, you want to simultaneously encourage movement in that direction while not giving the impression that the movement made already is sufficient for even basic moral decency. It's not, and not you can't give them like, oh, I'll say you did like pretty good. Like you have to find a way to not even say that, because that is
Mhm.
lying to people and it's saying something really gross about the animals.
Mm.
Like it's just, I view these things as way more psychological challenges than like fundamental challenges about like I don't know how to phrase that, but it's just about saying it in a way that lands with people, and you can do it right. It's easier if you're face to face with someone and you have some like rapport, but you can also do it from the place of like just an organization speaking to a bunch of people. And it's just about hitting the right psychological elements of like understanding they were motivated in the direction that they moved, probably for good reasons, and understanding that the fact that they moved at all shows on their level concern about what's morally meaningful and a willingness to actually do something about it. And all of that is great. That said, at the same time, we can try to do something great, but be misled about the scope of our actions, or be misled about how much good it's going to do, or about what is really required of us. And if we really want to not contribute to this, we do have to make it further than the step of reduction, to the step of actually not contributing to it.
Mm.
So there's a way to affirm people while not there's a way to affirm the good parts of what they're doing while not affirming the bad parts. And it's just about speaking in the right way more than it is about some kind of fundamental problem where there's not a way to do that. You see my point, or no?
No, I do totally, and I know you want to get through these, so I won't spend too long drawing up. But it is, yeah, absolutely, and I think it's a similar thing with the incrementalist and the welfarist position, where really that, you know, in this case you and I, but any given pair of vegans who might be on the other side of these issues, it is more about framing than anything else, because I don't think, I mean, you know, you and I both agree that the flexitarian is better than the meat eater and worse than the vegan. Like, do you know what I mean? We understand that there's, you know, it's an ordinal thing here. So, and just to insert an anecdote into this consideration, I got, for me, like very helpful treatment when I was at this stage. I actually I was volunteering at a vegan charity here in Bristol, and I, at the time, was a vegetarian and not yet vegan, and I was the only non-vegan in the office, and I must have been a villain, right? I was used to being a vegetarian on my moral high ground, but here I was the only non-vegan, and they, you know, I really feel that people in the office responded quite well to me, because they didn't tell me off or have a go at me or shame me overtly, but it was kind of important that I knew they probably were slagging me off when I left. You know what I mean? Like, there was enough. It was kind of clear that it wasn't cool, but also they were like, we're going to work together and you're volunteering for us at the end of the day, right? So, and that engagement, you know, made me go on to become much more likely to be, you know, do vegan things professionally and so on. And so when I look back on that, I imagine the case where it could have gone much worse, and somebody tells me off on day one because they find out I wasn't a vegan, right? And all of the good that I wouldn't have done subsequently, which I have done in the case where that didn't happen, right? So I'm very much of like the invite, you know, be invited, but then, like I say, it was important to have the other side of that coin, where I knew that they knew it wasn't good enough.
Those people weren't just saying to you like, it's great you're vegetarian, like this is so wonderful, just celebrating your vegetarianism, presumably.
Right. Well, yeah, they were. Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. They would have been. They were with a bit pursed lips and vegetarianism. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's way more of a human thing. Like, some people are, a lot of this is actually people have limits in how well they can communicate with other people. if you're really good at making your intentions clear, like the biggest thing with communicating with people is having clear intentions. And if you have clear intentions and like project them clearly and they're positive, you can say stuff to people that if someone else said would be like very offensive, and they won't take offense because they can tell where you're coming from.
Mm.
A lot of people don't understand like interpersonal subtleties like that and will just kind of say things extremely bluntly. And I don't have a problem with being blunt, but there's times when bluntness simply is going to confuse or overwhelm someone, and it's just not helpful.
Hmm.
So again, like I'm just kind of in the middle where it's like the important thing is to make your intentions clear and not to mince your words. And there's a way to do that that affirms movement in the right direction and doesn't give the impression that you've reached a satisfactory destination yet. If you can just be honest with someone and have good intention and say that kind of thing, they're all the more likely to respect you and move further in that direction.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
worry with overshooting and I worry with undershooting, right? Your case is like undershooting, like they just tell you to fuck off, or like, and you just go away and
Mhm.
you'll never explore veganism. Then overshooting is like you praise them too much and they think everyone's fine with me, there's no issue with what I'm doing, and they don't realize the problem. You just got to hit that sweet spot.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. I think that's perfect. Yeah, and I will consider revising the wording on some of these positions in light of the conversation. So yeah, that's cool. That's a good point. Well made.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think everything seems worded fine here. There's just a few things we just have different views about. And again, it's not like wildly different. Like some of it is just a lack of data. I've not explored the welfare stuff in depth. And incremental. Yeah, I mean, we have a bit of a difference in how we emphasize and talk about it. And with the welfare one, we might have a difference in what we think is actually the case. That would
Mm.
depend on the data, but these are not like big differences. Okay, pro alternative proteins. Did we get that far? I don't remember.
Yeah,
We
that's
did
the next one.
incrementalist pro alternative proteins. We support and endorse alternative proteins, including plant-based, fermentation, derived, and cultivated. I mean, this is just obviously good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pro slacktivism. We apply, and the thing about this is like veganism doesn't really deserve praise either, right? Veganism is just like bravo. You made it to the point of not preying on the innocent. Good job.
Right.
Like it's just the point of neutrality, right? Where you're not contributing to the thing. It's like everything up to that is just approaching neutrality, and it can be not motivating to be like you're working your way out of being a piece of shit, and when you finally get to the destination, you've hit neutral. Like I
Yeah.
get how that can be like not the most motivating thing, but that's also the reality. So we got to find a way to be truthful and honest and say what's important while having the right attitude. Okay, pro-slacktivism. We applaud and celebrate the efforts of individuals who engage in online and other low-effort forms of animal activism. Okay, only criticism is that online isn't necessarily slacktivism. Some online stuff takes a lot of work.
True. Yes.
Some
Okay.
online
Fair point.
activists work way harder than some IRL activists who I know.
Online or other forms of
Um,
low effort. That is poor wording. I do apologize.
yeah, like low effort is like, yeah, I mean, just casual like posting on Twitter when you're not actually a
Yeah,
public figure.
tweeting.
You
That's
just
what we
make little
mean.
posts here there. I obviously understand what you mean, but yeah, the phrasing.
Yeah, yeah.
Pro
That's
nudging.
brutal phrasing for you. Yeah. I mean, all of my
I
work
was
is
just like,
online, right? Pretty much.
I swear I do work. I don't know about all the hard work. There are people doing real stuff, but yeah, okay. We're strongly supportive of nudges to decrease consumption of animal products. Oh, you mean nudges like in the economic sense?
Mhm.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is a great one. Yeah, to decrease consumption of animal products via defaults, menu design, and yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. Nudges are fucking huge.
Nice.
So yeah, my overall take on these is like I overall generally agree with the direction. There's things we could like quibble about and things we might phrase differently, but I think it's reasonably strong. So
Awesome.
these are totally reasonable goals for an animal organization to have.
That's good stuff. I appreciate you going through that with me, and I don't want to take up too much more of your time. Some of these as well, like I'm glad that you found non-controversial, like pro nudge. I mean, I was surprised to find out that anyone is not pro nudging, but I've come across people who are like, oh, might be kind of manipulative if you make the plant-based the default. It's like, oh, for God. In a situation where there is a default, are you going to make the meat the default then? Like, why is that not manipulative? Like, I don't know. So I find that some people are just a bit too. It's almost as if they're. it's almost, I have the feeling that a lot of people in the vegan movement are like very nice, very high agreeability, but then they just don't want to do anything to rock the boat ever, even a tiny amount. It's like, come on, this is such a small ask.
Yeah, I think it's actually good to advocate for nudging, and like no one's gonna. Yeah, like there's fights from people who think nudging is like really imposing on them or something like this, or who really don't want to impose on others. But I mean, it's just good. Those people are just wrong. Like if we want
Right.
to have sane defaults for everything, sane defaults are good.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually even part of the definition of nudges is to not impose a great cost for doing the alternatives. Right, that's why it's like taxes are not
Yeah, it's
nudges
not
and stuff like
drop kicks,
that.
not
Exactly, right.
shove, not punch in face.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
it's just not let you stand there and do whatever the fuck you want and by default do something horrible. It's like let's just not do that.
exactly. Yeah. And then another interesting thing where we could, uh, perhaps this is for another time. I recently made a video called Vegan 2.0, Upgrade to Vegan 2.0, where I'm making the case that basically a lot of vegans can get obsessed with like trying to be the perfect vegan, and then we talk about, well, I had to get in a car with leather seats, and there was crop deaths, and da da da, stuff like that. I think that you can just blast through those, um, like very diminishing returns, where you're like, I'm going to try and eat the low crop death vegan diet, and just do way less effortful stuff that helps way more animals in activism and be
Well, sorry.
yeah, go on.
Crop dust thing is very
Oh,
confusing. It's just
okay, yeah, sorry,
I'm
the
just
crop.
flagging that there's like a whole other layer of confusion. Like the idea of trying to eat a low crop death diet is like hilarious when you actually understand some of this stuff. But that's a whole conversation though.
Okay, fair, yeah, and I know you. There's a bit of a more complication around crop deaths, but let's say like
Hello?
oh, sorry, can you hear me still? Hello.
I no longer hear you.
Oh, I think I just glitched back in. Hopefully.
I don't know. Maybe you can type and you can if you can hear me. Can you
Test. Let me try and rejoin here.